Welcome to the COVID Diaries interviews funded by the New Hampshire Humanities Collaborative and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Monique Doukas interviews Venture Dionne.
Hi, this is Monique Doukas, and I'm here with my friend Venture today, who's my coworker at Trader Joe's and has a story to share about addiction recovery and COVID and what it's been like during this past year, really, since like March of last year. And I thought he might have a good story to share, and he was so nice he agreed to do it. So here we are. Hi, Vench.
Hi, Monique. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you were willing to do it. I guess I would start maybe by asking what kind of year has it been in general? Has it been a really hard year in comparison to other years?
In a lot of ways, it absolutely has been.
Yeah.
I am fortunate, I guess, to say the least in my job and financial situation that I have been able to remain stable in that regard. Um, and like everyone else, especially those struggling with previous mental health issues, it's definitely flared things up and rattled things. But in the same way, I actually feel fortunate that I have these tools already kind of built in from being in recovery, and so with that, I've really been able to, I think, keep some serenity and some peace, whereas others may be struggling.
Mm-hmm. That's
So it hasn't been terrible, but it's there are definitely terrible days, and it's definitely the a type of situation where you want to just take it a day at a time, because if you look at the broader picture, that's when the fear can really creep in.
yeah, absolutely. And it has been really crazy. But are you also helping other people since you've done so well with it? Like it hasn't been an easy road, and I know just from knowing you that you've done great, and and I just know the type of person you are too, and I feel like if you can help other people, that's usually what you're doing. Do you do that sometimes, or is that really hard with working and, trying to take care of your own self too? How do you find a balance?
Um, so for whatever reason, uh, helping people is like a core component to, I'd say, most forms of recovery. At least it's a very common one and a very powerful one. I know that for me, it gets me out of my head a lot,
Hmm.
and it brings me, like I was talking about that peace. I freak out less,
Hmm.
and so within the recovery, I practice. It is kind of built into there, and simultaneously, I do look for opportunities to help people. Um, and what I get back from it, sometimes it doesn't even feel super selfless because I get such I get a lot of powerful stuff
Yeah.
from it when I'm able to.
Hmm.
Um,
Feels good, right?
yeah, exactly. I've been helping out this older couple buy groceries for pretty much the entire pandemic, and then there's
That's
reaching
awesome.
out to recovery people.
Hmm.
It There's always more I could be doing, but I think if I stopped trying to turn my attention to helping other people, then I might be in trouble recovery wise. So that's absolutely an important part. But you're right that I can't be much of a help to other people if I'm not myself at least somewhat put together. So that has to come first.
Yeah, right. Like you do still need to take care of yourself. But I think that's a great point you made though about how like not only is it part of the whole recovery process and helping other people is part of that, but also, like, even if it weren't part of that, I think it does make you feel really good. I think it makes a lot of people feel good. Like, simple little things mean so much to people. It doesn't even have to be something major.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it not only makes them feel good, but it makes you feel good too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those rare win-wins in life. It
Yeah, huh?
benefits both people.
Yeah. So, what else do you want to tell me?
Well, I can tell you about the what the experience has been like,
Yeah,
and
I want to hear it. Yes, please.
um, so I guess I'll preface this by saying that I'm uh suffer from alcohol use disorder. I don't mind calling it alcoholism, but I know some
Hmm.
people don't. And I've been sober. When the pandemic started, I was sober for about like 3.25 years, and now I'm 4. So I've some established recovery.
Woohoo.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I
That's
say
great.
that to not to pat myself in the back, but to give the the uh, preface that I was not in the beginning,
Right.
and I feel so thankful and so I guess lucky that
Mm,
I don't have to deal with the initial getting sober during this.
I bet.
Yeah,
That's a good point too, because that probably, if people that were trying to do that through this, was probably so hard
yeah,
because there's so many things involved emotionally, fear, all that stuff.
right. And such a core component of recovery is being vulnerable with other people and interacting with other people, specifically in recovery, meetings, whatever that may look like. And so when there's a pandemic and the precedent is social distancing and staying home, that can be a recipe for disaster. Um,
I bet. So
yeah.
how did the meetings go, if you don't mind me
Yeah. So,
asking? What did those turn into? Virtual meetings or?
yeah. Yeah. They did. They use this platform, Zoom, the majority of them at least. It was an interesting transition because when this thing started and in-person meetings were still happening, there was kind of a divide between people who were like, these are too important, we have to keep them in person, and
Mhm.
other people saying no, we have to move to virtual. We have to be socially distanced, and all that.
Mhm.
Um, and slowly but surely, the vast majority of meetings transitioned to virtual or stopped meeting,
Wow.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah, which that does seem unfortunate. Like,
Yeah,
better a Zoom meeting. Like, yes, ideally in person is the best way because it's not only about seeing each other, it's about having coffee and talking afterwards, and it's a routine, right? Probably for a lot of people.
exactly. Routine's a
Yeah,
huge word for it, and it knocked everyone
I bet.
around having to change that up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was for me and for many people I see,
Mm-hmm.
they work. The Zoom meetings, they give me the stuff that I need. I don't like them as much as in-person meetings,
Right.
but I get recovery from them, and I can connect with new people. I can hear important things and I can talk. I do miss, getting there and setting up chairs,
Mm,
getting there early, talking to people, staying late. There's not as much of that going on. You can't service and service positions are
right.
an important part of recovery. There's just not as much to do. You can't make coffee for a Zoom meeting, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I bet that has made it difficult though, and maybe more so, like you said, for people that are in the beginning of their recovery, because it's probably really vital, I would think, to,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and even though you still get that support, it's kind of like some of the people that come shopping at the store, right? That
Right.
some of them come every day, even maybe if they don't need anything, but they come every day anyway, and maybe just get two things because they know everybody there, and it's like
Yeah.
a comfort zone kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That
yeah,
it's very, I think it's very human to need that connection with people.
mhm,
Um,
I agree.
and specifically with the, whatever coffee making or whatever, what have you, that's an accountability. And I know there were certain things I did for meetings that if I didn't have to do those things, I would have made, I could have easily and would have easily made excuses,
Mhm,
not to go.
mhm,
Uh, and so that was a beautiful thing being kind of forced to go.
right.
Obviously, that's no longer, unless you do have a position or you host a meeting, that's no longer, it's pretty easy to make an excuse not to turn your phone or computer on.
And have you done have you still been able to be pretty good about it, even though it is really easy to not, or 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 the longer you go, the longer you've been sober, do you not need the support as much as you used to?
I would say I don't need it quite as much, but it's definitely still something that is crucial and needs to be a consistent thing. Um, it's been a struggle for me because when I'm at home,
Mm-hmm.
I am used to doing at home things, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'll just, I'm a millennial who's used to a lot of stimulation as far as screen time goes. So I'll like have a meeting going and I'll do other stuff and it will be in the background, which is definitely better than nothing, but
Right.
it's not as good as, when I'm at a meeting and forced to,
There.
but
Yeah.
there's no turning your screen off in real life.
Right.
Um, so there's been some adaptation there and I have gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is, I mean, the one thing I guess I'd want to address is just how impressive the adaptation has been for people in recovery to switch to the Zoom stuff, to, meet with people in a socially distanced way. Uh, it's to still, collect the money to keep the things going
Mm-hmm.
through Venmo or whatever.
Right.
Every little aspect of it that's needed to preserve the structure of um, meetings or regardless of the recovery pathway,
Mm-hmm.
like they made it happen.
That's really great. Yeah.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, and
really
I do see people who are like, newly sober and they're making it work. Um,
that's great.
but yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Isn't it though, really? Like how people can adapt, like just everything that everybody has adapted to over the past year.
Right.
That
Yeah.
that in the beginning we were like, there is no way.
I know. I know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember how much wearing a mask bothered me, and now
Oh
it's
my
like forget
goodness.
it's on my face.
Yeah. No, I know. Now it feels weird without a mask on, doesn't
Right.
it? Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Is there anything else that I think you really hit a lot of really good points. And is there anything else that you think that is important for the future people to know when they know
Um,
want to know what it was like now for us?
yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say, I've been focusing a bit on my experiences and some positives with how, well people have adapted, but I don't want to minimize how rough this has been and
Hmm.
how, there I'm sure have been um plenty of addiction related deaths or
Yeah.
overdoses that might not have happened.
Yeah.
Um, I have a family member who has tried to enter recovery during this, and she is elderly
Hmm.
or she's older, so she
Hmm.
has, you know, for me, when I went to treatment, it was such a wonderful place to start, and it
Hmm.
was a safe environment where I could just focus on recovery. And now, if you're an older person, trying to recover, you have to choose either, do I go here and maybe save my life and
Mm.
and risk getting COVID, or do I
That's a
not?
real good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
uh it's unfortunate. And like I said, there's so much merit to being forced to go to like an in-person meeting and being dragged to coffee afterwards. And
Hmm.
it's just for people can make it happen, but the barriers to recovery right now
Are hard.
are pretty rough.
Yeah.
Um, to the extent that I really don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was not able to get sober. If my recovery story happened now instead of then.
Yeah.
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 Not
Yeah.
to mention, obviously, there's the financial aspect of it. In general, people are worse financially
Mm.
due to this pandemic, and that is not that doesn't help you get the resources you need
No.
to treat addiction. So it's definitely a dire situation, and I've seen people who have a lot of strong recovery get shaken up by this and relapse.
Yeah.
And I've
Okay.
seen, um, like I said, people who are brand new, make it work with the Zoom meetings and calling people instead of meeting for coffee and all that.
Right. And
So
then there's a do I
right,
try and get sober to save my life, or is this gonna risk my life by getting sober? Yeah,
right,
that's a
yeah,
hard decision to make, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely for those, because you can't exactly go to treatment on Zoom. One of the whole
Yeah.
benefits of going to treatment is that you're in like a safe place where you don't have access to
Right.
drugs, alcohol, whatever your behavior is.
Hmm.
So
The,
I don't want to minimize how
yeah. No,
it
I
is out
totally
there.
understand. Yeah. And I
Um,
think that's an important part of the story too. Like it's a success story for you, but it hasn't gone the same way for other people, especially people like you said. If this were the beginning, you might be telling me a different story right now. But you were lucky enough to already be in it and established and sober for a while before this took place, so you had that foundation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I feel immensely grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
great. That's great. Thank you, Venture. Is there anything else you want to add before I stop recording?
Um, let's see. What would someone who listening?
I
Uh,
know that's what I keep saying too, is people are gonna wonder what it was like. And so, yeah, if there's anything else you can think of, you throw it out there. I'd love to hear it.
I I think I painted I think a broad enough general
I
picture
think
of what
so
it's like to
too.
be in recovery
Yeah,
right now. I mean, in
thank
when
you.
you were first entering recovery, it was, adapt and change, or die. And it's kind of the same thing here. So, people are making it work.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you, Venture. I'm gonna stop recording, okay? Thank you so much for doing
Yes,
this
thank
today
you.
for our COVID
Happy to help.
Diaries project. And I'm gonna stop now. Thank you.
Special thanks to the Community College System of New Hampshire. Faculty mentors Krista Zoba, Sally Bachelani, Kara Shenoy, and Paula Delbonis Platt, along with Dawn DeAngelis of New Hampshire Public Television, PBS, the University of New Hampshire, the Huge Humanities Project at the University of New Hampshire, and its co-directors, Krista Law Jackman and Molly Campbell. Leslie Barber at the Community College System of New Hampshire, audio editor, William Forrest Platt, copyright, New Hampshire Humanities Collaborative and CCSNH 2021.